Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Soul School Network. It is March the 15th, 2026, and we're here with a small group live participants, and of course, lots more will join us watching on YouTube over the coming days and months. Um, Today, we're going to our sort of traditional circle, Sunday circle format. Basically, we want to have an opportunity for everyone here to share their thoughts on whatever it is on their mind, whatever maybe issues they're facing, things that may be of a personal nature or more of a world nature, community nature in terms of things they're concerned about that are going on the planet. So it's a wide open discussion. Feel free to bring your thoughts on anything and seek the advice of others here who are also spiritual seekers. So welcome. Let's get things started off here. If we could, Korianka, would you mind walking us through a guided meditation just so we can ground ourselves a little bit?
Yes, sure. Let's do the
Wonderful.
grounding meditation.
Okay,
We can
thank you.
close our eyes. hmm We can relax our bodies, close our eyes. We're going to take 3 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth. One more time. We'll start scanning our bodies for any tension there might be, starting at the head. We'll do this together. We're just gonna observe without making any meaning out of it. Scan the crown of your head, the back of your head, your face and neck, shoulders as well. One arm and then the other, all the way down to your hands. Now your back, from the neck all the way down to the final bone of the spine. You can focus your attention now on your chest and your abdomen. Are there any sensations so far? Any muscle tension? Just observe for now. Continue with your legs and feet. Wherever you found tension, let it go gently by visualizing that it is a white cloud that slides down your body all the way to your feet, leaving your body through the soles of the feet. Perhaps there will be many clouds of tension leaving your body, and that's great. You're letting go, and you can feel good about it. Once tension is out of your body, it will be gone and transformed into life-giving energy. Let's take a deep, relaxing breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Let it feel good. You can stretch your body and make sure you are comfortable wherever you are. You are a beloved child of the earth, deeply connected to her. Notice how your feet are planted on the ground, either physically or energetically at all times. Feeling the earth with the soles of your feet. Feel how your energy grows and extends itself from the soles of your feet towards Mother Earth. You are growing energetic roots that go into the moist, rich soil under your feet, uniting you with the Mother, receiving nourishment and love from her. The more your roots extend and go deeper and deeper into the earth, the more you feel deeply grounded and held in love by Mother Earth. Stay present in this moment. Remain grounded and present in this moment. Grounded and present. You can gently go back to your breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Now you can slowly open your eyes when it feels good to you and move your body slowly as you are coming back.
Thank you, Corianka. Wonderful. I think we should just do that for the whole hour, given the events of the world these days. No, very nice way to get us started on a Sunday morning. Welcome again, everyone. Welcome, Silesia. You joined us just now. Nice to see you. Once again, my name is Greg. This is Soul School Network, our Sunday Circle. We had a discussion earlier today, Susan and Michael and I, about the sort of format of Sunday Circle. We've kind of gone between sort of having a group discussion, sharing our thoughts on, what's on our mind to discuss, focusing on one topic. And then also, sort of going around the room and sharing sort of as at will, if you will, when people want to chime in with a thought or two, to do so, and then also to do the sort of the more of an indigenous circle format, where we go around, pass the feather, if you will, and have people comment. And I think where we landed, Susan, you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but basically is that, having a little bit of both of those influences in our discussions is a good way to do it. So, we don't want to make it a sort of a very super formal thing where, you can only speak in the order that we have created our circle. And also we want to make it less formal in terms as well of in terms of the topic of discussion. So, we like to recommend a topic sometimes, and we focus on that for the full hour. Other times, it's sort of what would you like to talk about? And I think that's the way we'll go today is a more of let's talk about things that are on your mind. One of the big ones, of course, uh, for all of us is what's happening in the Middle East right now with the war between the U.S. and Iran and other parties getting involved. So I think that's something that's quite concerning to most people. So I thought maybe that would be one of the subject matters we could talk about. I know Sue has another idea on something that's kind of weighing on her mind. So let's open the floor and see who wants to get things kicked off with something that is pressing for them. And anyone want to jump in and get things started?
Greg, I'm happy to jump in and take it from here.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. And I appreciate what you said. And it's such a good lead into for something I would like to share around Circle. I had a really intense conversation this week with somebody for a couple hours who's really upset about a family matter that was a situation in their lives. And it is deep and complex. And I spoke about a circle with a feather. And it's difficult to convey. Michael and I have been so fortunate to be part of so many Indigenous circles. And they often start with a theme, there's something to solve in a community and something hurting somebody, something that needs to be healed. And so it is to be in circles like this to really understand the magic and profound nature of what's possible, where you think there's no resolution to a conflict. And then you bring it to circle. And people who are committed to the healing will see it out. Even if you have rounds of the circle that are silent, there's still something energetically happening. And faith is a superpower that is a lot happening in the invisible realm that is supporting us, that wants to support our healing. But I didn't say too much about it. I spoke about a circle, and then later he reflected back to me, it's not going to be solved by a circle and a little feather. And I realized that it's very hard to convey to people what the possibility is around circle. And what I love about Zoom, of course, you're kind of already holding the feather because we tend to be quiet and not talk over each other like might happen in person. So again, in person, the value of the feather is to be holding it and everyone to be reminded that they're not to be talking when you are, and there's no cross talking in the circle and so on. So it just struck me. And then it struck me again yesterday. We're visiting with some friends and they were going on about the nature of silent retreats. And I've done many of them through Vipassana training many years ago. And so I realized in listening to them that they didn't really know how silent retreats are conducted and how, what the value is and what the process is and how much time it takes to get out of your mind, and into your heart. So I guess I'm bringing that forward because we have lots of thoughts and ideas based on our experiences. Every single person here does. And I apologize for sure if in our original discussions, we didn't adequately maybe convey that message that we understand this can be a new idea for people, could be an intimidating idea. And we just know the power of circle. So I do believe that a lot is solved in circle with a little feather or a really big one like Michael's holding. And I hold that faith. And so I'm just really grateful that everybody was willing to be here this morning because there's so many places you could be. And I know the value of community. My mom was admitted to hospital yesterday. And if it wasn't for community, how could I stay here in Peru? It's community that allows us to heal in the end. So I'm starting off with that, and I pass it over to whoever has another thought to share. Koryanka.
Yes, I just want to add to that conversation about circle and communication. What you said brought to mind is that I can understand how that works so well when just one person is talking and nobody else is interrupting or wanting to add to that right away. It's because when somebody's talking, if we are in our head trying to formulate an answer or too busy in our heads with how that lands, what the other person said, and we answer right away, then we are distracting ourselves from actually listening. The listening is not fully happening, maybe even not at all. And whatever we might say might come from reactivity. It's not a response, but an emotional reaction that if it's very charged with emotion and is heavy kind of emotions, it can be actually be hurtful to the other person, to the people around. It can just be something that we regret later. And so I see the value of that approach, being very mindful to be present, just listening at that moment, and when the time comes, actually tuning in and finding out what is that you actually want to say, what's going to contribute to the conversation.
Excellent point. Yeah, so there's so many advantages to all of these approaches. My concern was just making sure that people didn't feel that they needed to say something uh, at a specific time. But what you've pointed out is that listening is the key, and then when the time comes, reflecting on what you've sort of absorbed and how you've put it together in your own mind. So that's a great point. Michael, did you want to jump in with some thoughts?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I have to reflect on what you said, Greg, about staying in the meditation. And that's how I feel this morning. I felt when we were in that meditation that I wanted to continue in it for the whole hour. That's how I feel. I feel like I want to stay in the meditation with all of you for the whole hour. And it feels so good. It just feels wonderful. And it's reflective of, what you were talking about in terms of world events and what's happening in the world. We had visitors yesterday, and I've lost my voice pretty well because I talk so much. I was prompted to share a whole bunch of things in terms of what's happening in the world. And, from my perspective, the way I see it is, again, we live in the time of prophecy, and we're seeing prophecy fulfilled in what's happening in the world events. This concept of, where the world is headed, so to speak, has to be reflected and thought of in terms of the concept of eternity. We have to think in terms of eternity and infinity, rather than this concept of this is happening now, what's going to happen in the future, what's going to happen to me. Everything right now is on the vibration of fear. The vibration of fear is preeminent, I would say, in the world by virtue of circumstances that are created in the ether. They're not really created in the physical. It's created in the ether, and then it happens in the physical. And I see Donald Trump as fulfilling the energy of the Lord of Shiva. The Lord Shiva destroys and creates. And what we're seeing is destruction, destruction of a very corrupt system, which is in the United States and in Israel. And this Zionist agenda that has been pretty well taken on by the leadership of the United States, mainly because of many, many years of formation. I mean, it didn't happen in the last 4 years. This all happened over the course of time since the last World War, the Second World War. And what is it now? From 1945 to 2026. What's happened since 1945 to 2026? It hasn't been progress. It's just been a deepening of the agenda of control. And that agenda of control is something that you can defeat, and you can defeat it within yourself. That's where it's at. And moving yourself, your own mind, and your own emotions into the vibration of love. That's why the meditation is so beautiful. What was it? 5 minutes? But within that 5 minutes of silence, you can feel the love from everyone who's participating here. And within that concept of that vibration of love, what a wonderful feeling. And then everything that is sort of happening in the world kind of disappears when you douse yourself into the vibration of love. Each and every person here is loved by everyone who's in this circle. There is love in this circle. And within the concept of the love within this circle is the answer. You know, I'll reflect you all back to when I had my biopsy. I had to be put under anesthetic. And while I was under anesthetic, I left my body and I went to another dimension. And I was in just completely enveloped with this concept of unconditional love. It was unbelievable. I still can remember the feeling. I can feel it as I'm speaking to you. This feeling of love. And when I came out of it, I was in the ICU and Susan was standing beside my bed. I'm trying to tell her what I just felt, what had just happened to me. And I couldn't express it, but she could obviously see from what I was trying to say that I'd had this incredible experience. And it's like near-death experiences that people talk about. It's exactly what I experienced, which is to say, I was given the gift of being shown another dimension existing at the same time as I exist. That's why Sat Chit Ananda, eternal consciousness, eternal existence, eternal bliss. That's what you live in. You live in that, but we forget. And the reason we forget is because the obstacles that we present ourselves through our mind and through our emotions, we get lost. And we get lost in the swirl of the thinking and the swirl of the feeling. And we forget who we really are. And who we really are spiritual beings having a physical experience. Contemplate that. That's who you are. You are a spiritual being. Within the concept of being a spiritual being, you have something to draw upon. And what it is, I call it magic. It's magic. Magic exists in the universe to remind us of how incredible existence is. If I die tomorrow, I don't die. I'm not in non-existence. I continue in existence. That's now, that was yesterday, and that's tomorrow. So within the framework of world events, where I am in relation to world events depends on the definition of who am I? How many times a day have you asked yourself the question, who am I? And contemplate that for a moment. If you sit in meditative contemplation about who am I, what answer will you come up with? I'm a lawyer. I'm a doctor. I'm a brother. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a. But that's not true. Those are roles. And the roles that we play comes down to, who are you? And if I could express myself as being love, then all of a sudden I change who I am. I become love. I become compassion by virtue of the idea that I change. I change my perspective. I change the way I look. Now, that 5-minute meditation we did this morning charged me up. It made me elevated. It brought me into relaxing the tension in my body, feeling like it was moving, concentrating on my breath through my nose and out my mouth, listening to a beautiful rhythm of Koryanka leading us in meditation. Wow. Wow. It's so beautiful. It's so precise. And it's so who we are. So when we live in our daily existence, moving ourselves into the love vibration, whenever we feel disconnected, deregulated, not with it, you can change it up. And you can change it up because you are a spiritual being having a physical experience. I'm just feeling so filled with this concept of equanimity, of sitting on the ground of wisdom and freedom and the protector of love and compassion. I put that on the bulletin board of my mind. And I think about the concept of, in that brain of mine, I have a pineal gland and I have a pituitary gland. And that pituitary gland is my chemistry. And that pineal gland is my lighthouse. It is the one through which I see. What I see through my eyes can be deceiving. But what I see through my third eye is something very deep. And it's been given to us. Each and every one of us has a pineal and a pituitary. And the relationship between the pineal and the pituitary is pretty deep. I just say, whenever it is that you feel that the world events are overwhelming, concentrate on the idea that you live in eternity. This is a mere passing. We're moving from the Iron Age into the Golden Age, and there's a purification in between. So purify yourself, and you'll purify the world. Miigwech.
Miigwech. So that purification is sort of the Strait of Hormuz when it comes to the situation in Iran. That's been on my mind lately, that particular matter. But Michelle, you've got your hand up. We'd love to hear what you have to share.
Oh, I just wanted to comment on the prophecy stuff. You have kind of like two things going on at the same time right now. We have the naturally occurring prophecies of the indigenous people, like the true ones, but you also have these ones that are coming up that are scripted, that are they're trying to force on us to bring in the end times, their agenda, and you have to like really practice discernment during this time, especially when it comes to the fog of war. What they're like, they were saying, this one commander or something was saying that Trump was chosen to bring in the end times. Is just absolutely insane. And another thing I want to talk about was when it comes to magic. Well, magic is in the realm of imagination. So the more imaginative you are, the more magic you'll experience in your life. I actually wrote down some things I want to talk about concerning like the political parties. Like it's just crazy how people still see left and right instead of like these two parties they have the same goals. They go after them and they try to achieve them in different ways, but they have the same goal in the end. And basically it's a big club and you ain't in it. So that kind of thing. But they are two sides of the same coin. So it's something that people need to kind of overcome. And I actually was thinking about this ancient Turkish proverb the other day. When something goes something like, I don't know like the exact quote, but it's something like, the forest was disappearing, but the trees kept voting for the axe because its handle was made out of wood. And they believed it, one of them. And then there was another one that I just heard recently. When a clown moves into a palace, he doesn't become a king. The palace becomes a circus. That's pretty true right now. And I think that like this is the time of discernment. And the best way is to kind of break out these boxes that they like to put us in. And the only way to do that is to expand and elevate your consciousness and try to let go of the labels of the material realm and instead reach for the infinity, because that's where you're going to find your answers and that's where you're going to find your escape. I think that's it.
Thoughts on that? Anyone?
I could share something, Greg, if it time permits.
Absolutely.
I think the hard part to explain to people for circles is because when you say, and I know Michael's vouched for this many, even in formal court settings, right? But when you say let's bring this to circle, I think a lot of people fear, they hear that as oh, so we're all just gonna sit around and with a feather and magically solve centuries of this mess. And fair enough, like on the surface, it can sound a little soft, when what we're dealing with is the government and lawyers and bureaucrats, the media, and all the rest of that machinery. But that's really not what Circle is for. A Circle is not there to replace the law. It's not there to replace evidence. It's not there to replace accountability. And it sure isn't there so people can dodge those hard truths. The Circle is there because some things cannot be healed in that adversarial format. And a courtroom can decide who wins on paper. A bureaucracy can decide who fits in which box. A tribunal can decide who gets counted. But none of those things on their own restore balance between people. And that's the part that people miss. And so the feather or the talking stick it's not some decorative prop, so everybody can feel spiritual for an hour. It's a discipline, and it slows people down. It means when you speak, you are responsible for your words, and you don't get to interrupt, bulldoze, or posture, or grandstand, or do that thing people love to do. They like where they talk at each other instead of with each other. And in a circle, you actually have to listen, which these days it's practically revolutionary. And that's where the value is, because what are we really dealing with here? You know, we're not just dealing with law. We're not just dealing with the land. We're not just dealing with records. We're dealing with broken relationships, and the trust has been broken. The history's been broken, and all people carrying pain, carrying confusion, carrying fear, pride, sometimes all at once. So, you know, a circle is definitely not going to fix the crown. A circle, is not going to make the ministry suddenly behave, but maybe, I don't know, but maybe a judge will wake up, you know, but I don't think anyone, or they're going to apologize for, of hundreds of years of nonsense. But I think a circle can do something a system can't do, and it can put us back into the right relationship with one another. So it can bring truth out without everything becoming a contest, and it reminds people that this is not just a file or a registry, or it's not just some kind of argument on Facebook. That these, in our particular circumstance, these are families, these are lineages, and there's real harms that have happened here. And I think that's why it matters, because right now the system has trained everybody to think the only valid process is a fight. You have plaintiff and defendant, winner and loser, valid and invalid, real and fake. And once everything gets turned into that, the spirit goes out of it. And then it just becomes another sorting machine. And the circle does something different. It says, before we decide what action to take, before we sharpen every little legal argument, before we line up all these exhibits and all these grievances, can we first sit down and remember that truth is not supposed to be a weapon? That doesn't mean no accountability. It means accountability with balance. So, the whole thing is not going to be solved by a circle and a feather alone. But if if we can't even sit together in a circle and hear one another honestly, then whatever they build after that, whether it's legal or political or you know um, organizational, it will still carry that same sickness. And that's really the point. The circle is not a whole solution. It's the beginning of a better way to carry the solution. Otherwise, we're just using the same. We're just using, colonial tools to fight over colonial damage, and then acting surprised when everybody leaves angry. And with respect, we've had quite enough of that, I think. Anyways, Miguel.
So true. The thing that you said there that really struck me is that, having been involved in labor negotiations over the years of my career, what you often find is that you have the two sides who are, bitterly opposed to each other. But when you really look at it and when you really listen, when you actually spend the time listening to the other side, which they don't do much, is that they're 95% agreed on 95% of the issues. There's this much between the two to really make a decision on. But that's the thing that keeps them apart. That's the thing that keeps them hating each other and pushing for extremes in terms of how to resolve these situations. And it's the same thing, when you have a dispute with an individual, you could probably really look at it and say, we agree on 97% of what we're saying, but it's that little 3% that somehow is causing us to really dislike each other, dislike the point of view. And I think the same goes for, and indigenous claims. There's a lot that really the two sides should agree upon in terms of respect for each other, respect for the land, respect for culture, and community and spiritual understandings. But we don't. We take an adversarial position, and through seeing Michael's work, I see oftentimes that it comes down to those little things that make up the decision on whether a judge is going to move forward with a revolutionary new way of looking at it or not. Would you say that's true, Michael?
Well, yeah, for sure. But that's what I call the magic. I look at the practice of law now much differently than I did for the first 30 years of practicing law. I look at it as looking for the magic and really concentrating my mind on that idea that magic will prevail and that magic comes in. And I've seen it. I've experienced it. I just had one. We have a case, Corey and I, and we just saw a piece of magic come our way in terms of a ruling of a judge, which made an opening that we've been hoping for a long, long time. It's magic what happened. And it wasn't, oh, Swinwood's argument was brilliant and therefore. No, 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 no. It was hanging in there in the circumstances and having something come in, which is, again, it's in the ethers. And Corey and Stacy and I right now are working on the legal things we work on. We're working on the principle that the ancestors are arranging things. So from our perspective, Grandfather William Commanda, all of the elders who have passed and are in the spirit world are actually working with us. We believe that. We are with that. And as a consequence, you can't lose. There's no such thing. All it is experience one after the other. And you hope that you're making the building blocks towards something that's going to deliver to humanity a bit of an opening. That's the way I see it. I no longer, there was a time when I thought, oh, gee, I got to do it this way. And if I do it this way, this is going to happen. No, no, no. You do the work. You bring the best that you can bring to the table and you pray, because that's where the magic happens in my perspective. What?
I just have some more comments, Greg, if there's still time.
Of course.
Well, and I think what you put it there too, Greg, put it really well. But when you actually sit down and listen, most people agree more than they realize. And that's the case in labor talks, and it's often the case here too. But the real problem isn't always the people across the table. It's the structure everyone's operating inside, and a lot of the conflict we're seeing comes from this the administrative layering that were built over the original relationships on the land. And you have British administration, treaty systems, Indian Act structures, all of that reorganized peoples and histories into categories that didn't exist before, and families that were part of the same corridor history ended up being in different boxes, and they're sometimes competing with each other. So when people argue about identity today, they're arguing inside of a framework that was imposed long after the fact. And that's why these conversations, they get so tangled. But if we slow down actually listen to each other's histories, the women in the records, these corridor families, all the displacements from places like Drummond Island or Killarney or the French River, you start to see that story. It's more shared than divided. And the problem is that the paperwork doesn't always reflect that reality. And that's why I keep coming back to Circle. Not to avoid the hard issues, but to get people talking outside the boxes that were built for us, And that's kind of been the focus of my work with Michael and Stacy, trying to solve this issue that's it's very, very big in Canada right now. So,
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, to get outside the box, you go into the circle. I see what you're doing there. Anyone else? Celicia, John Michael, do you want to weigh in with some thoughts on this? Your own insight into the discussion today?
Yes, I'll say something. So I didn't really understand the points that Susan laid out in the beginning of how a circle is normally operates and what the benefits are. But now having heard that, I really love the idea of solving problems as a group because that's what I've been most interested in for so long, solving problems. And actually, right before this webinar, I actually looked up what am I supposed to say in a circle, because I'm somebody that thrives on direction. And unfortunately, about my personality, if I'm not given a direction or a topic, I'm lost. And when I'm quiet during these webinars, it's often because I feel that the speaker hasn't really defined the topic or the subject, and they just start speaking. And I don't really know what to, I just need a direction to start going in a way to start thinking. So when Susan said, I think she gave three ways it's supposed to work. So one is people listen when somebody has the floor, and I think we've been doing that because of. I think we've been doing that anyway because there are such few people that come on the calls that there are these moments of silence before it gets to the next person. And so we've been doing that anyway. And the second one was when somebody when somebody has a topic and we all have a conversation, and I really love that because again, it's a way to solve problems, and it's a way to get other people's input. And the third way was when somebody has the floor and they share what their issue that they're struggling with is, and others chime in on how to fix it. And I absolutely love that. I definitely know that works because I read this book by Barbara Sher. I don't remember the name of the book, but she helps people advance in their careers. And she would have this thing called an idea party or a success team. And people would share their struggles about something they were struggling with in their career. And everyone would give their suggestion on how the person could move forward. And she wrote about the successes of that, and it works. And I really do love that idea. The only criticism, I guess I would say, is I think that it would need to be a separate webinar because I think that takes time. Like Koryanka was saying, you need time to get your thoughts together and think about what the person is saying and come up with a thoughtful answer. And in 1 hour with 8 to 11 people sharing their issues, or just even 5 people chiming in, I think it takes a little bit more time. But you've practiced this in Indigenous circles, so you would know more about the time involved. So I would say I think it should be almost a separate webinar thing altogether. And I guess lastly, so there's been a theme here of destruction and renewal. Are we going through a period of destruction, and should we focus on being destroyed with all the war going on? Or is this what the indigenous were describing as a renewal into a new world, into back to nature. It's both, and I try very hard not to focus on either because they're very polarizing, and I feel an acceptance. I feel an acceptance that I'm going to be destroyed, and the purpose of it is to be replaced with something new or different. That's the way this world works, and it's easy to accept when you're seeing an insect, a world of an insect or an animal be destroyed, and you can look at it objectively and it's accepting, or I'm accepting, and I'm like, yeah, they have to die. We're building a house, so everything in the forest has to die. But when it's happening to you, it can be very scary, and but I just accept that this is the way it is, and I've moving further and further away from trying to win a certain side, trying to stop it, trying to win the fight of good versus evil, and just I guess I'm focused on trying to have good experiences from day to day and leaving it at that. Um, I think that's all that's on my mind right now.
Well, I will say that, the first part of what you talked about, reflecting on the three ways that Sue mentioned, really helped me. So thank you, Salisha. You know, that was the struggle I was having too, was, is it a regimented, formatted thing where we have to do things in a certain way? And what if I didn't feel like reflecting on those things right now, or it wasn't the right time for me, or that sort of thing? But this sort of opens the door to being like we are right now, which is sort of, let's talk, let's have a conversation. We're friends here. We're seekers. So let's just be that and accept each other for what we each bring to the circle/square. So much appreciated there. Anyone else? I think we're,
Hey
yeah. Oh,
guys, sorry,
good.
I'll jump in real quick. I'm so
Perfect.
grateful to be here and to see you all. My 18-year-old dog is making Ewok sounds and really needs to get out. But I've always loved a circle. Um, it reminds me of orbs. I love orbs, and I feel like spirits travel within orbs. It's protective. It's you can't really break a circle. Um, and, thank you, Susan and Greg and everyone here for hosting, and Koryanka for the meditation. And Michael, I really loved your share, because it's exactly what I've been pondering in the last couple of days. And, the fear comes up, like that kind of terror that I had at first COVID, and sort of, you know, watching the theater of the observe and trying to see like a different, like an eagle perspective above it, and reminding myself, like, who am I? I'm a child of God. I'm a child of Creator. And that gets me out of that monkey mind of, going down that road and trying to pivot. But um yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to make sense of it all. I think I told you, Michael, about like I had an OBE many years ago before Trump came back into office, and I go straight out into space sort of, and I saw this being with a white cloak and a staff and an amber amulet, and his head was going from a diamond to a crystal, diamond to a crystal, and I'm like telepathically going, "Do you come in peace?" And he's sort of like, and shows me a picture of Trump in a blue suit, red tie with flames underneath it. And I'm like, okay, what is that? I know, Winston, I know. And a week later, I'm lying on the grass looking at the sky going, what is it? What are you showing me? And then I hear Phoenix. And then I'm on the computer. At that time, I was on Telegram, and I see a picture of Trump walking by in a red suit, in a blue suit, red tie, and 3 steps above him was Phoenix circled in red. So I'm like, okay, he's coming back. I go in waves of trying to understand, like, how is this guy chosen? Like, some moments I really hate him, and then some moments I'm like, okay, I think there's a bigger picture, but I don't know, with all the stuff that's been coming out, the Epstein files and everything, like, I'm confused at some of his choices and trying to really figure out. But I lost a lot of friends at that one point of supporting him, and now I just, like, I don't know. And what someone was saying earlier about there's no left and no right. Like, anyways, I just, peace, trying to, we are sensitive creatures, and not to feel that terror in the world and what's happening to people. Um, really, uh, you know, I'm just trying to stay here. I just want to show you Winston. Winnie. Do the
Hey,
beep.
Winston. Winston.
Um, so yeah, trying to keep it together because I lost my mom. Didn't lose my mom. She transitioned 6 months ago, and I was her primary caretaker. And just wow, that as Michael knows, knocked the sales out of me. And now this one's about to. There's a big change, and I think disruption always propels me forward in a sense, and hopefully what's happening in the world, sadly losing all these souls, but that there's a new light and a new freedom and love that awaits us all in this repeat performances of the circular theory of war. And, like, come on, let's just I don't know. I don't know if I'm making much sense, but it's really great to be here.
Yeah.
I love you, Michael, so much.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay.
And it's great for you to be able to, just open up and share what's on your mind here. And you know that we're all listening intently, taking the lessons from that we all have, and feeling those things that we have in common with the struggles of your life. And I think that is really what this is all about. So thank you.
Greg, may I jump in for a moment?
Please do.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you very much to everybody. It just fills my heart so much to hear from you and your experience. It's so instructive and helpful. And I want to just reflect back. I was struck when Michelle spoke about the relationship to magic and imagination. And Michael and I spoke this week to a non-dual teacher. It was a fabulous conversation over Zoom. And I don't know how many non-dual teachers you've ever spoken to, but from the non-dual perspective, it's all a dream. And so when we think about dreams, we think about imagination. And then we're in our imagination, we can include magic. And then it doesn't even seem like faith. It just seems like normal because that's the space we're living in. So we've been reflecting, Michael and I, making jokes all week. Don't worry about it. It's just a dream. Don't worry. It's just a dream. We've been having some fun with it. But also, I reflect back to you that we all are in a dream to the extent that we're able to understand what Corey said is that duality removes the spirit. So good, bad, right, wrong, up, down, should, shouldn't. So like the more non-dual, the more that we can be living the dream, we can, like Michelle was pointing to and others have, is that this is how magic happens in our life. And so it's chicken egg sort of thing a bit around faith as a superpower and imagination and the dream. And I just say that it's something to contemplate because there's a lot of relief in not taking it all quite so seriously and understanding our infinite, impermanent nature. So I just love everything everyone has shared. And thank you for being part of the circle, having the courage to come to circle when sometimes you don't even know what it means, what it is, what the implications are. It means courage. And I thank you for it. That's all.
Thank you, Sue. Here, I thought you were saying we're living with McDreamy. Joe, I have to watch TV to understand that one. Anyway, thank you, everyone.
Ba-da-ba-boom, ba-da-ba-boom.
Yeah, only in my own mind.
Yeah.
Symbols, please. Anyway, thank you, everyone.
I have to say that when Jill was talking about the Phoenix, was describing her vision about the Phoenix, I had kind of like a deja vu feeling. So it's probably something to that.
Yeah, interesting. When she said that, it was what? It's very interesting. Yeah, so you can think about that, Michelle, and share with us if you get an inspiration or epiphany on what that meant to you.
Hey guys, can I add to that?
Sure.
Hi, Winnie. So when I did the research of the being with the diamond head and skull, I came to Sanat Kumara, who was one of the Mahatmas. I've had an experience with Kutumi as well. And supposedly he said to his wife, I think who's from Venus or something, honey, do you mind if I go back into humanity and do some work there? Like the flame in the people have gone out since the beginning of time. Like there's no fire in the heart anymore. And she's like, sure, And I guess for 80,000 years he's been doing that. Honey, do you mind if I go do some work on Earth? But I guess he was that being and was earthbound, like Katumi, who embodied Saint Francis of Assisi, built the Taj Mahal. I'm sure you guys will know all that. And I guess, and he's like the Earth school dude. Um, but yeah, Sanat Kumara, I don't know. It's just interesting if you want to dive down a little bit and more in that. And you know what? I'm just like, I'm buzzing because I'm so grateful to be here because it's reminding me like I need to meditate. Like I've been so squirrely. I haven't been able to sit. I have to have something playing. Like since my mom died, I've had to have like podcast or something in the background, even if it's birds chirping on YouTube. But this is a really good time to remind me to be still, focus on the heart and the breath. And so I love you guys really. Like it's a blessing to be here.
Thank you so much. So, Sue, should we wrap things up here with the mantra of unification? Be great.
I think you're inviting me to say it.
Sure. Yes, you are, Michael. You usually fight over it, but I thought I'd just hand it to you
Okay,
this time.
so I'll just put it on the screen here. There we go. Yes, the souls of all are one, and I am one with them. They seek to love, not hate. They seek to serve and not exact due service. I seek to heal, not hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form and life and all events, and bring to light the love which underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate and outer cleavages be gone. Let love prevail. Let all people love. Miigwech. Namaste.
Wedge, thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Susan, did you get any news about your mom?